"Can you wear this ring until tonight?" the CEO asked, placing the gold ring in my hand. His mother laughed. "You wear that?" Then Daniel looked at me and whispered, "They don't know why I chose you." My name is Clara Bennett, and I'm 34 years old. I work as a waitress at one of the most expensive restaurants in the city. Every evening I put on the same black uniform, tie my hair back, check every table twice, and walk into a room filled with people who can spend more on dinner than I make in a week. I'm not ashamed of my job. But I would be lying if I said being judged didn't hurt. I grew up in a small home where money was always tight. My parents worked hard, and my mother taught me something I'll never forget. She used to say, "Clara, never be ashamed of honest work. A clean pair of hands is worth more than a dirty fortune." I carried those words with me after she died. I had dreams too. I wanted to open my own catering business someday. Nothing huge. Just a small place where people could order homemade food for weddings, birthdays, and family gatherings. My relatives laughed whenever I talked about it. My brothers had better jobs. My cousins had bigger houses. Everyone seemed to be moving forward except me. I wasn't rich or glamorous, but I had something they didn't expect. I knew how to keep going when everyone else had already decided I would fail. And if you've ever felt invisible because of your job, your background, or your bank account, you may understand what happened to me that night. Subscribe if you've ever worked hard while people underestimated you. Tell me in the comments if anyone has ever judged you by appearances. And if you're ready, click hype or like, because what happened next changed everything I thought I knew about my mother. That evening started like any other busy Friday. The restaurant was packed. Plates clattered in the kitchen. Glasses chimed whenever someone raised a toast. And the smell of roasted garlic, butter, and fresh bread filled the dining room. Around 7:30, my manager approached me. "Clara, private room 3. Important guests." I nodded. "Who?" "Daniel Whitmore." I knew the name. Everyone did. Daniel Whitmore was the CEO of Whitmore Holdings, a company that owned office buildings, hotels, and several technology firms. He was young for a CEO, maybe 38, and newspapers often called him one of the city's most successful businessmen. But there was one person at that table who made the entire room feel uncomfortable. His mother, Eleanor Whitmore. She arrived wearing a cream-colored dress and enough jewelry to make the restaurant lights sparkle whenever she moved. I entered the private room carrying water. "Good evening," I said. "Can I start you with sparkling or still water?" Eleanor looked me up and down. "Still." I poured it. Then she frowned at my shoes. "Does the restaurant not provide better uniforms?" I glanced down. "They provide everything, ma'am." "Clearly not." Daniel looked uncomfortable. "Mother." She ignored him. I smiled politely and continued serving. For the next 20 minutes, Eleanor found something wrong with everything I did. The plates were too warm. The water wasn't cold enough. The bread was sliced too thick. Then she looked at my uniform again. "You know," she said, "people should look respectable when they're serving important guests." I kept my expression calm. "I'll make sure everything is handled properly." Daniel looked at me. "I'm sorry." "It's okay, sir." I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. After the main course arrived, Daniel suddenly became quiet. He looked down at his right hand. Then he slowly removed a gold ring from his finger. It was beautiful. A dark blue stone sat in the center, surrounded by small diamonds. The band looked old, but carefully preserved. He held it toward me. "Can you wear this ring until tonight?" I stared at him. "I'm sorry." "Just wear it." I looked around. "Sir, I don't think that's appropriate. I'll explain later." I didn't move. "Why me?" His eyes met mine. "Because I need to know something." Before I could ask what he meant, Eleanor slammed her glass onto the table. "Daniel, what are you doing?" He didn't answer. I looked at the ring again. "I'm not sure I understand."
"Please," Daniel said quietly. "Just take it." I hesitated before accepting it. The moment the ring touched my palm, Eleanor stood. "She'll steal it." The entire table went silent. I looked at her. "What?" "You heard me." Daniel's face hardened. "Mother, stop." Eleanor pointed at the ring. "That ring belonged to your grandfather. It is worth more than this woman's annual salary." My face became hot. "I don't steal." She laughed. "Then prove it." I slowly closed my fingers around the ring. "I don't have anything to prove to you." That was the first time Daniel looked genuinely surprised. He leaned forward. "Clara." I looked at him. "Why did you ask me to wear it?" He opened his mouth, then stopped. His eyes moved toward the ring. "Because I saw you earlier." "I don't understand." "You were helping an elderly customer who couldn't afford the full bill." I remembered her. She had been short by $12. I had quietly covered the difference. Daniel had seen it. "You gave her your own money," he said. "It was $12. You didn't have to." "I know." He stared at me. Then he said something that made my stomach tighten. "My grandfather used to say the same thing about my mother." I didn't understand. Then I turned the ring over. There was an engraving inside the band. 4 small words. "Keep your hands clean." I froze. My mother had said those exact words. Not once. Hundreds of times. Whenever I was upset, whenever someone treated us unfairly, whenever she was afraid, "Keep your hands clean, Clara." I stared at the engraving. Daniel noticed my expression. "You recognize it?" My throat tightened. My mother used to say that. His face changed. What was her name? Rebecca Bennett. Daniel went completely still. Across the table, Eleanor's face lost all color. And that's when I knew. This wasn't about a ring. This was about my mother. Eleanor suddenly pointed toward the door. "Manager!" My manager rushed inside. "Mrs. Whitmore? Remove her from this dinner." I looked at Daniel. He stood. "Mother, that's enough. She is not appropriate for this family." I handed Daniel the ring. "I'll go." "Clara, wait." I shook my head. "No, it's fine." I walked out, but my hands were shaking. Not because I had been insulted, because for the first time in 6 years, my mother's name had caused someone powerful to become afraid.
I returned to the main dining room. I tried to work. I smiled at customers. I carried plates. I refilled glasses. But my mind wasn't in the restaurant anymore. It was back in my mother's kitchen. I could almost hear her voice. Keep your hands clean. I had always thought it was just something she said because she wanted me to be a good person. Now I wondered if it had meant something more. About an hour later, Eleanor found me near the service hallway. You need to understand something, she said. I turned. What? Daniel is confused. I didn't do anything. She stepped closer. You've seen what kind of family he comes from. Don't make the mistake of thinking you're suddenly part of it. I never thought that. Good. She opened her purse. Then she pulled out an envelope. $10,000. I stared at it. For what? To forget tonight. I pushed the envelope away. No. Her eyes narrowed. Don't be foolish. I don't want your money. You don't understand what you're involving yourself in. Then explain it. She went silent. I noticed that. She wasn't angry anymore. She was scared. I took one step closer. What does my mother have to do with your family? Eleanor's voice dropped. Nothing. Then why are you trying to pay me? She grabbed the envelope. You should learn when to walk away. I looked directly at her. I've been walking away my whole life. Then I turned and left. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table with my mother's old photograph in front of me. She was smiling in it. She looked tired, but happy. I remembered something she had told me when I was 19. If someone ever tells you that you don't belong in a room, Clara, ask yourself why they're so afraid of you entering it. I had never understood that sentence. Now I did. The next morning, I called Margaret Hayes. Margaret had been my mother's lawyer. She was one of the few people who knew my mother before I did. When she answered, I said, Margaret, I need to ask you about the Whitmore family. There was a long silence. What happened? I told her about Daniel, the ring, the engraving, Eleanor, the money. When I finished, Margaret didn't speak for several seconds. Then she said, Where did you see that ring? At the restaurant. Does Daniel still have it? Yes. Clara, listen carefully. Don't tell anyone you're talking to me. My stomach tightened. Why? Because your mother once came to me with evidence involving the Whitmore family. What kind of evidence? She believed a business agreement had been changed without her permission. I stood up. My mother never told me that. She was protecting you. From what? From people with money and influence. I walked toward the window. Did she know the Whitmores? Yes. How? Margaret sighed. Your mother was involved with one of their business properties years ago. She was supposed to receive a percentage from a future sale. What happened? She didn't receive it. Why? We couldn't prove what had happened. I closed my eyes. And the ring? That phrase engraved inside it was used during the dispute. I whispered, Keep your hands clean. Yes. What does it mean? I don't know everything yet. You said my mother had evidence. She did. Where is it? I never found the original. My heart sank. Margaret continued. there may still be a record. What record? An archived legal agreement. I sat down. Can you find it? I can try. Please. Her voice softened. Clara, if the Whitmores are involved, you need to be careful. I've spent 6 years being careful. Then don't stop now. After the call, I went back to work. Daniel came in alone that afternoon. He waited until my shift ended.
Can we talk? I nodded. We sat in a quiet corner of the restaurant. I owe you an apology, he said. For what? My mother. You didn't say those things, but I let them happen. I looked at him. Why did you give me the ring? He took a breath. Because I saw the engraving and remembered something my grandfather told me. What? He once told me that the ring represented a promise. What promise? I don't know. I stared at him. You're the CEO of a company worth millions, and you don't know your own family history? He almost smiled. Apparently not. Then his expression became serious. My mother offered you money. I nodded. How much? 10,000. He looked angry. I knew it. Why? Because she did something similar years ago. I leaned forward. To whom? He looked at the table. My grandfather's former business partner. I felt my heartbeat increase. Was her name Rebecca? Daniel looked up. Yes. My breath stopped. My mother. He nodded slowly. I think your mother was connected to my grandfather's company. More than connected, I said. I believe that. Then find out what happened. He looked at me. I will. But Eleanor moved faster. The next day, she called me. Come to my office. I almost refused. Instead, I went. She sat behind a large desk. You've been talking to Daniel. Yes. You need to stop. No. Her expression hardened. You're making a serious mistake. Then tell me the truth. She stared at me. Your mother made mistakes. What mistakes? She trusted people she shouldn't have. Did she lose money?
That isn't the point. It is to me. Eleanor leaned forward. You think money will make you important? No. Then what do you want? My mother's name. For the first time, she looked genuinely shaken. I stood. I don't want your family. I don't want Daniel. I don't want your lifestyle. Then leave. I will, when the truth comes with me. I walked out. That was when I stopped being afraid of Eleanor. I still didn't trust her, but I wasn't afraid anymore. Margaret called 3 days later. I found something. I rushed to her office. She placed a thick folder on the desk. This is an archived agreement from 21 years ago. I opened it. My mother's name was there. So was the Whitmore Company. Margaret pointed to a section. Your mother was entitled to 12% of the property after the sale. I stared at the number.
12%? Yes. How much would that be today? Several $million. I looked at her. Why didn't she ever tell me? She may have been afraid. Of Eleanor? Possibly. Margaret turned another page. There is more. She showed me correspondence between my mother and the company. My mother had written that she believed her signature had been used to approve a transfer she never authorized. I felt tears in my eyes. She was telling the truth. Yes.
Why couldn't you prove it? Because the original transfer document disappeared. I looked down. Then how did you find this? Because someone forgot to remove the archive reference. Margaret smiled faintly. People with power often believe they can erase everything. She closed the folder. But they usually leave something behind. We arranged a formal meeting. Daniel agreed to attend. Eleanor agreed only because she believed she could intimidate us. The meeting took place in Margaret's office. The room smelled like old books and paper. Eleanor arrived first. She looked at me.
This is ridiculous. Margaret didn't answer. Daniel entered behind her. Mother. Eleanor sat down. I sat across from her. Margaret placed the folder on the table. Let's begin. Eleanor crossed her arms. I don't have time for this. You will, Margaret said. She opened the original agreement. 21 years ago, Rebecca Bennett entered an agreement with Whitmore Industries concerning the sale of a commercial property. Daniel looked at the page. That property became part of Whitmore Holdings. Yes. Margaret continued. Under this agreement, Rebecca Bennett was entitled to 12% of the sale proceeds. Eleanor interrupted. That agreement was invalid. Margaret calmly placed another document beside it. Then perhaps you'd like to explain this. Eleanor looked down. Her face changed. Daniel picked it up.
What is this? A transfer authorization, Margaret said. Daniel read it. Rebecca's signature. Yes. I looked at Eleanor. You said my mother made mistakes. Eleanor stayed silent. Margaret spoke again. The signature was challenged 20 years ago. Daniel looked at his mother. Why didn't I know? Because it wasn't important. It was millions of dollars. It was a business matter. You knew? Eleanor finally snapped. I did what I had to do. Daniel stared at her. What did you do? I protected this family. Margaret opened another file. You also paid Rebecca's former accountant to destroy a copy of the original transfer. Eleanor stood. That is an accusation. Margaret placed the payment record on the table. No, it's evidence. Silence filled the room. I looked at Eleanor. For years, my family had treated me like the person who didn't matter. The poor daughter. The waitress. The one without connections. The one who would never amount to much. But now I understood something.
People who judge your worth by your clothes often reveal more about themselves than they ever learn about you. I looked directly at Eleanor. You kept calling me a waitress like that was an insult. She said nothing. You never bothered to ask what my mother left behind. Daniel lowered his eyes. I should have known. I turned toward him. You couldn't have known everything. But I could have asked. That mattered to me. He wasn't making excuses. Margaret explained the next step. The transfer can be challenged. The property agreement can be honored. Rebecca's name can be cleared. Eleanor shook her head. You can't destroy everything I've built. I answered quietly. We're not destroying anything. You don't understand what this means. I understand exactly what it means. I pushed the folder back toward her. It means my mother wasn't a liar. Eleanor stared at me. I continued. And I don't want revenge. She looked surprised. What do you want? My mother's name cleared. Daniel nodded. And the agreement honored. Margaret added. Legally, that can be done. Eleanor sat down slowly. The confidence was gone. Daniel looked at me. Clara, I'm sorry. I nodded. I accept your apology. Can I help you? Maybe. How?
Give me time. He nodded. I will. I looked at the ring sitting on the table. Daniel picked it up. This belongs to your family history now. He offered it to me. I shook my head. No. Why? Because I don't want to own the thing that caused all this. He looked confused. What will you do? Keep the lesson. I stood. My mother spent years protecting me from a world she knew could be cool. I looked at Eleanor. She succeeded. I walked out. The legal process took months. It wasn't easy. There were documents to review, signatures to verify, and meetings that seemed endless. But eventually the truth was recognized. My mother's name was cleared. The agreement was honored. The money she had been denied was finally accounted for, and I received my share. People expected me to change overnight. I didn't. I still woke up early. I still worked hard, but I stopped apologizing for wanting more. I used part of the money to open my catering business. The first event was small. 30 guests, 3 servers, 1 kitchen. I stood in the back room before the event began and almost cried. Not because I was scared, because I wished my mother could see it. The woman who had once told me to keep my hands clean had taught me something much bigger than she realized. She taught me that dignity isn't something wealthy people can give you, and it isn't something poor people need permission to have. Daniel became a client, not my boss, not my savior, a client. He once asked me why I never accepted his offer to invest in my company. I smiled. Because I need to know I can build it myself. He nodded. I respect that. Trust between us grew slowly, not because he was rich, because he learned to see me as a person. Eleanor never apologized. Maybe she never would. But I stopped needing her apology. That was my freedom. Sometimes people spend years convincing you that you're small because they're afraid you'll discover how strong you really are. I was a waitress. That was true. I was also a daughter, a business owner, a woman who survived being underestimated, and I was finally becoming the person my mother always believed I could be. If you've ever been treated as less than because of your job, clothes, money, or background, I want to hear your story. Share your story in the comments and tell me about the person who underestimated you. Did they ever discover your true worth? Subscribe and stay with this community, because sometimes the people who judge us hardest know the least about our journey. Click hype to help this story reach others who need it. Your story has power. If you felt a connection to mine, please subscribe and share your journey in the comments. Every hype you give this video helps empower someone else. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for remembering that your circumstances don't define your value. Someone may underestimate you today, but that doesn't make their opinion your truth. Keep going, keep believing, and never let another person's judgment decide who you become.